Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Jan. I'm here with Jana Mall, founder of Energy Medicine Specialists, and I'm Shelley Francis, Jana's publishing partner. As people start flowing in, I would love to invite you to write into the chat who you are and where you're coming from, because as we are gathering here today to talk about Energy Medicine Specialists and Jana's vision, not only for the organization, but the Credential, tell you more about that. This is also really about creating community and finding out what you want in a community. So as you're coming in, would you take some time to plug in even just the city and state that you're coming from into the chat? And then you can see where other people are coming from too. And then after we get started with that, there's Gabby from Denver.
Denver, North Carolina.
North Carolina, you are not from Colorado. All right. Someone, Diana from Minneapolis, Pam, Colorado, Priscilla, Colorado Springs. We've got Miami, Florida, Wilsonville, Oregon, another Florida.
Some familiar names. Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. You know, we were going to do this as a webinar, not the webinar, but as a typical Zoom meeting so that we could see each other's faces. And unfortunately, we set up the room before we realized that. And so there's just these pros and cons of whether the RSVP and the automatic links going out to you would be more important than seeing each other's faces. But we are really happy to see all your names showing up. And to be able to have this conversation, and we can do this again too as a Zoom meeting in the future so that we can see each other and really get the sense of who is interested in this whole idea of energy medicine and the field and credentialing it. So thank you for everybody putting in where you're from. Another question that we are wondering is if you could tell us what brought you to this call today. Are you a student? Are you a healer of some kind with an active practice? Just what is it that really spiked your curiosity about today's webinar specifically? You know, we were wanting to share this because in the past year, Jana has been going through kind of a renewal of her website, launching the Energy Therapy 1 class, doing more online. So 2020 kind of felt like a reboot in many ways for her practice. And we got to this point where it felt like it was time to really have a conversation about it. So I'm seeing in the comments, we've got Healing Touch certified practitioners, somebody with some Reiki, some more EMS. So looks like we have lots of practitioners on the call. Somebody says a rainbow energy healing practitioner, Holy Fire Reiki.
Good.
So Jana, why don't you, while people are filling this in, it's helpful. So please, thanks, please and thank you. Continue to kind of put what brought you here and what kind of healer you are. Jana, why don't you tell people who may not know your full background more about the kind of training that you've had as a healer all these years?
I'm ancient in the field of energy medicine. I started training in energy disciplines in 1993. And over the years, I've trained in close to 50 different energy disciplines. So I have a wide background and exposure within what's available in the field of energy medicine. I've also had a private practice since 1994. I've been very involved with a couple of disciplines in energy medicine, Healing Touch being one of them. And my interest before coming into energy medicine, my background was psychotherapy. So I was trained in talk therapy principles. I also have a background in doing group organization, crisis counseling. I have a master's in nursing now. I didn't have a nursing license or come into this from nursing, but definitely looking at beyond a training and discipline, the field of energy medicine. What's available? What is the structure? What are the ethics? How does it dovetail with other healthcare principles and disciplines like nursing and psychotherapy? So I've been at it a long time. And me personally, I like to look at things from the standpoint of structure, accountability. In energy medicine, if it's aligned with healthcare, there are nursing CEs, there are credentials that might be aligned with that. And all of those things I've looked at as well. Personally, I'm an empath. So I'm also more of an intuitive now than I was when I started in this field, but I think working in energy regularly kind of helps that perspective. I have an active practice. I have had an active practice consistently since 1994. So I think that's important, that I'm not just teaching this, but I'm also practicing it. I'm still working with clients with different energies, seeing what works, whether it's a certain population or a certain disease process, or whether it's just whether it's using intention or whether it's incorporating self-care, what kinds of differences those make in terms of a practice. So all of that is part of who I am.
And so Energy Medicine Specialist is the name of your organization now. And so you've gone from being a like a practitioner and working with other organizations to having your own with your own coursework.
Yeah.
What led you into wanting to have your own umbrella over coursework?
Well, I didn't want to. I fought it for years. I wrote and offered advanced practice coursework in the field of energy medicine, dovetailing with other programs out there, because I didn't want to recreate the wheel. But what I found in the last 5-6 years was that as my students were coming in to take advanced practice coursework, many of them, a good proportion of them, didn't have the basic knowledge I felt they should have to be in the class at that level. So for example, one of the things that we use as a diagnostic tool, you might use muscle testing or intuitive work, but our diagnostic tool is a pendulum. And I was finding people coming into advanced coursework expecting them to be able to do advanced diagnostics who did not truly understand how to use a pendulum. And that's just one example. So with many examples showing up like that, and from where I stand as an expert in the field, as an accomplished practitioner in the field, what I was finding is that the disciplines that I was aligning with were losing their training and energy to the point where, as students were coming into my advanced coursework, I was having to start from square one and get them all on the same page. And it means that my coursework can't be advanced. It means I'm starting over from a place where I thought people had already grown past. And that's very frustrating because I didn't want to go back and recreate the wheel. My interest really is the advanced level of work and the client interaction. But I found that I had to. That, and I was depending on other programs and their structure and ethics or lack thereof to create good practitioners. And it was very frustrating, very frustrating. So I finally decided the only way I'm going to have any kind of ability to let this go with a structure that other instructors can carry forward, I have to start from the beginning. And so about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I rolled out the Energy Therapy Level 1, which is an online course. And I don't know if anyone on the call has taken that class, but I invite you to write about it if you did. I'll tell you that what it has in comparison to other programs out there, it immediately, level 1 goes into the matrix, the hara, the chakras, the meridians, and the aura. So it introduces all parts of the energy body. I mean, if you don't know what it is you're working with, how are you going to know what your training is where it's taking you? So it also goes very in depth into boundaries and self-care and appropriateness of your energy. And for a level 1 class that's online, I think it's a good start. So I'm currently working on 2A and 2B, where it'll be level 1 is not heavy on technique. Level 1 is very heavy on structure, ethics, professionalism, boundaries, kind of designed like Barbara Brennan. If I know a lot of you are healing touch people, if you think about Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light book, it's not to the last couple of chapters that she actually has you working on someone else, because there's so much that's important before you do that. And I'm using a similar kind of structure in my program. It is exceptionally important for empaths. Someone asked a question about empaths. For empaths to understand boundaries, it is the life lesson for empaths. And interestingly, the field of energy medicine draws a very high percentage of empaths because they want to be of service. They want to help because they feel others' pain. And to know how to hold healthy boundaries in any healthcare field, whether it's psychotherapy or nursing or energy medicine, it's extremely important for practitioners to be the best that they can be. And if what you're doing is taking on for someone else, they may leave feeling good, but you've got a lot of work ahead of you to deal with what you just took on. So that doesn't make you a good practitioner, actually. It makes you a siphon. It sets up codependency, but it does not make you a good practitioner. And so very early on, level 1, we work very diligently to point out what is healthy boundaries. So give you checklists for healthy boundaries, so that if you're working with a client, you can determine whether or not your boundaries are being breached. I mean, I'm really talking about a level of professionalism that I think it is time that the energy medicine field embraces.
Thank you for saying that about professionalism. I know that your vision statement online says that EMS is a center for excellence in healing, education, practice, and in presenting and consulting in the field of energy medicine. So you're not just creating an organization or a network, not even a movement, although you're part of a movement. You've talked about creating a standard. I mean, that center of excellence is also setting a high bar for what practitioners should be bringing to the field. Can you say more about what a standard really means?
Yeah.
Or what it isn't?
What we have today is we have confusion around the word standard. And standard in education or healthcare, it is the bar that we hold up and we say, we want everybody to attain this bar or beyond. That's our basic standard. Unfortunately, The culture that we have in the US especially is a culture where the standard we have is how much money am I making, which is so far removed from the standards I'm talking about. If I'm teaching a program and my standard is that I'm going to promote you when you finish this program. I'm going to create a pathway for you to have an income, for you to be able to practice as a specialist in this field. But instead of making sure that you're as good as you can be, if you keep paying me money to take the coursework, you're good. I give you my stamp of approval. That's not a standard, but that's how we see it being exercised today. If you buy a block of classes and you don't take them all, oh well, you're still a student. If you've, taken a class to be an instructor, but you don't understand it, you don't do the work, you're not good in the energy, or you're dangerous in some way, oh well, you took the class to be an instructor. I'm going to call you an instructor. A standard is an expectation of outcome that reflects on the standard that's being held. So if I'm not measuring outcome, I'm going to have a hard time upholding a high standard. So I'm confident enough in what I'm creating that if I have to tell someone, I don't think you're ready for the next level of coursework, or I don't think you've achieved what the course has been set out to achieve, I don't have any qualms with saying that. I'm not afraid of not having your money. It's a standard should be something worth fighting for. It should. And the outcome of that standard should be good healthcare, good practitioners, and good outcomes with your clients.
So I'm hearing that there's this level of ethics that you're tending to, and that it's for the sake of not just the practitioners and their career, but this is about patient care.
Yes.
So why is ethics your soapbox, so to speak?
I'm an observer. I'm kind of like a little scientist, that kid that watches how everybody else does it and then tries it a new way, or does it without making mistakes because they saw what worked. So that's part of my personality, is to observe and to want to do well at something. I think that's that little scientist. The other part of me I know from astrology, and I wouldn't claim it if it didn't make total sense to me. But out of 12 planets, I have something like 9 in my second house, which is the house of values and ethics. So I have lessons around ethics as well. Sometimes those lessons come from, I'm not afraid to speak my truth. And sometimes that truth probably should not have been spoken. So those are lessons for me. But the other part of that is that as an empath, if I feel where someone else is being hurt by something, then I'm usually pretty quick to pick up the flag and fight for somebody's rights, which is an ethical framework. So I both have my own feelings around that, as well as observing how the world treats people who feel deeply, the sensitives in the world.
So when you think about where you would like to take this idea of having a credential, maybe you start with just what would it mean to have a credential? What would it mean to the patients? What would it mean to practitioners? in their career or in their own practices to have a credential called being seen as a specialist in energy medicine?
I think my vision has always been that being a specialist in energy medicine is that you know more than one discipline. So it's not about the program that you've studied so much as you're able to function as a diagnostician of energy. So I do a lot of training around what are these different energy systems? How do we assess them? And then, of course, how do we work with them to create more function? So it's about being able to diagnose and treat the hara, the chakras at all levels, the aura, the meridians. So it's the whole package based on energy. And then there are other things too. I mean, there's the energy of interactions. You know, what interactions in your life are assisting you in holding balance, in creating higher function, and which are keeping you from doing that. So I mean, I can say it's this, but it's a field. So everybody's going to have different specialties. I mean, there are so many different disciplines now in the field of energy medicine that you could be a specialist in Chinese medicine. You could be a specialist in manipulation medicine, exercise medicine, spiritual medicine. There's so many different ways to look at it. But if you're tying it together in, this is who I am as an energy being, and this is what happens that influences my energy or diminishes my energy, now a practitioner can assist me through their specialty, through their training and their awareness of all of my energetic expressions to coach me or assist me in being more of who I'm meant to be.
So, if I, as just a consumer, am looking for a healer to help me work through a certain issue, whether it's physical or emotional, or obviously they're all connected, and I see somebody who has SEM after their credential, what would that tell me as a person seeking expertise help?
Yep. It would tell you that someone has done the training to be able to diagnose and treat all parts of the energy body. It would tell you that this person practices under a code of ethics and a scope of practice to meet you, the client or patient, where you're at. So it mimics a Bill of Rights that Western healthcare might have. It's not my job to tell you what your truth is. It's my job to choose amongst my expertise trainings to meet you where you're at in the best way possible. And you get to choose. It's not me telling you who you are or what's wrong with you. It's me sometimes telling you what's right with you and focusing on the things that will help move you to a higher function.
So part of what you're doing, it sounds like, is unifying the ideas around energy medicine into a place and a credential that would be recognized by Western practitioners. So if a
That's the
doctor
goal.
wanted to refer somebody for more help, they
Yes.
would know where to go.
Yes, that's the goal, is that the SEM is actually a credential. So once the training is complete, energy therapy, and then looking at whatever else you've trained in the field of energy medicine, Reiki, EFT, IET, whatever it happens to be, it's looking at all of those trainings and saying, you have earned this credential that says you're a specialist in this field of energy medicine. And the goal is not to replace Western healthcare, because that's not our scope of practice, but to dovetail with spiritual practitioners, psychological practitioners, physical, medical practitioners, to be able to offer a high level of unified care.
So why do you think 2021 and the era that we're in right now is ripe for energy medicine? Why is now the right time?
I think that things have gotten easier. I mean, when I first started training in '94 in this field, it was tough. There wasn't a lot of great science and physics behind what we are offering. Um, there were a lot of people that were skeptical. There were laws passed to prevent someone like me from practicing. And I think what's happened is there's a general acceptance that Western medicine, even within Western medicine, that it is not the end all be all in healthcare. That there are a lot of ways to create healing, that our medical model has been, there are some changes, but it has been one of sickness treatment, not wellness treatment. And so these other disciplines on the periphery of wellness have actually had better outcomes than a lot of Western medicine. And so the talking about how to boost your immune system, how to balance your needs, emotionally, physically, mentally, as well as spiritually. I went to a Western medical doctor about sleep. And this is a doctor trained holistically who I had invited into a holistic physicians network group. And she knew me. She knew what my background in training was, but she didn't listen. And she sat there in her office and lectured me on how to create sacred space in my bedroom to ease me into better sleep. And I'm like, excuse me? You think I don't know these things? I would go there first before coming to you. And it was really frustrating. I felt diminished and belittled and unheard, and almost like the hierarchy that exists in Western medicine of the doctor beats up on the nurse and the nurse beats up on the nurse practitioner, this hierarchy of abuse in Western medicine. I felt like I had no place. How I felt, what I knew about myself, had no place of value to her as my physician. And I was like, that's it, I'm out of here. I can't do it. You have to, even though things have started to change, I don't know that we're in a place where there's no need for someone like me. I think there's still great need for someone like me to be talking about people know themselves best. People know what they need. People know where they're out of balance. People need to know what balance looks like, and they need to be supported in making some of those choices.
So the credential root word is also about credibility. So the credibility that a credential and a training program would lend feels like over time is going to be in parallel to just how the industry of healthcare overall is changing and shifting and recognizing the bigger picture of what really contributes to health.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I invite anybody that posts questions in the chat. We might as well just stay with the chat window here for comments and questions. And while you're doing that, Jana, I'm wondering, I'm guessing a lot of people are saying, well, what would it take for me to get a credential? How close are you to having this program, ready to roll out or ready for me to sign up? What can you tell the folks today just about where you are and where you want to be?
Yeah. Well, ET1 is out. It's up. ET2A and 2B are the other foundational pieces of creating experiential as a practitioner working in energy. A lot of new techniques. They're much more heavy on techniques than ET1 is all on structure and ethics and understanding how the energy system works and all that. There's only one other class for me to write other than ET2A and 2B, which are being simultaneously written right now. and that is the Advanced Meridians course. Everything else is written. So there are one-day courses on things like intuition development, advanced pendulum diagnostics, on case management. That might be 2 days. There's a communications class. There's, what else is in there? And then you get to the advanced level, which is advanced chakra diagnosis and treatment, Hara diagnosis and treatment. And then the last of those advanced classes will be advanced meridian diagnosis and treatment. And that's the program. And then you can apply for the credential, the certification, which is a specialist in energy medicine. And that's where it looks at your other training and background as well. And it, you know, it's focused on energy medicine, but really because we're so strong on ethics and structure, we're looking at what is your background in healthcare. You know, that's a valuable background of training that you might have that you bring to a client practice. What other backgrounds and trainings do you have? And then beyond that, what I'm really looking at is creating community. So I'm really looking at creating a place for people with expertise in the field of energy medicine to be able to bring forth their coursework. So I have the nursing CEs lined up. I have the structure lined up. It's about being more of a community, a place for community to stay involved, to stay contributing, and to stay educated in the field. So for example, I have a friend of mine, is one of the things that she does is she works in music through a church. And that's a huge part of her background over many years. And she's very interested in sacred sound and music. And I've asked her to write a one-day course for a practitioner on sacred sound and music. I mean, we have things out there. We have tuning forks, we have toning, you know, and how do we pull this together and understand at a higher level, how might we utilize sacred sound and music in our healing practice or in our personal growth work? So any topic that touches in the field of energy medicine would be something that I could definitely create a platform for. I could help you write it. I could give you a structure for writing coursework. I have the pathway for getting CEs. And so that's part of the vision as well, is creating something that students and practitioners can plug into and contribute to make the whole kind of a clearinghouse for where do I go to get more information.
Yeah. So I see a question from Gail that's asking, where will ET2 and ET2B be taught? And that really brings up that bigger question, which is the elephant in the room was COVID happened and quarantine happened. And how does that affect the delivery of classes that you can do online versus what really needs to be done in person? How do you think about the two?
Yeah, it's a frustrating place for me. There is a lot you can get from energy from a Zoom call. I feel like we have an energetic connection and I can feel where you're coming from and all that kind of stuff. But it's not exactly the same for me to be in a classroom and be able to teach to the energies of a group in a physical setting. And that's always going to be important to me. It's not going to be the only way I teach, but it's certainly going to be important to me. And ET2A and 2B do have a live component to it, classroom component to it. But I'm looking at creating the remaining courses and a couple that are already written and putting them in a more online format. So for example, before coming to 2A, you might do a video segment that covers some of the topics. So it gives us more time for experiential and interactive in the classroom. And so I don't have to, sit you in a classroom that you have to travel to, that I have to pay for 3 days of rental on a space, and that you're using that time to read out of the book, or for me to lecture on something that could easily be done online. So I'm looking at creating these courses that are more a combination. And that doesn't mean that there won't also be like a Zoom component to it, where you're networking with each other. Here's what I found when I use this technique, or these are the questions that I have after that exchange that we had. But I'm going to try to make the most of the time from a travel perspective, from being in group together perspective, as well as how do we use some of this electronic platform that we now seem to be so comfortable with. 2A and 2B are not quite done. I'm expecting both will be finished this year.
And so you in the past have traveled, you've hosted classes in Denver because that's where you live, but you've also traveled to certain communities where there's been kind of an established community already that plugs you into.
That's right.
So tell me, like, of the cities where you already kind of have a home base, where might you travel, or do you expect to do classes in Colorado and have people come here?
I can do both. If you want to organize a class in your area and you have a network, whether it's through your massage school, or through an energy discipline, or through a network group that you have of like-minded practitioners, it doesn't matter. I'm open to traveling to a different location to teach. I don't know that I have a network of that already, because coordinators are independent, and it just depends on what's going on that year. Right now, there are no classes scheduled. So there's a whole lot of getting over the mountain before we're back out there teaching again. But if you're in a facility that, we got to get past COVID, of course, but if you're in a facility that offers courses, has nurses that get credit for training in other disciplines or in energy medicine, and you want me to come to your hospital and do a specialty class or something, I'm happy to do that. So there's certainly that medium is there. My guess is they will be offered first here in Denver, because I do have a network of people here, of students here, that are interested in those classes. I have people that have taken all of my classes except the ones still being written, and are looking to get those ASAP so they can apply for certification. And so, yeah, I'm going to have those offered probably in 2021.
So what I'm hearing that you need are COVID to be over, or vaccines to
Everybody
be out.
vaccinated or with strong immune systems.
Yeah. You have some classes that you are finishing the writing of. Talk about what is it kind of at a heart level that you feel is missing, or that could really take it to the next level?
Community. I really thrive best in community myself. And I think one of the things that we're all seeing with COVID is how much we miss having our communities. So I'm looking to draw in more practitioners and students who would be interested in participating in this. This has never been about me. This has never been about me creating a business I can retire on. This is about me changing the industry and giving both clients and the community, as well as practitioners and students, a place where they can get their needs met. And so I'm looking for people that would be willing to co-write. I'm looking for people that would be willing to do research on different topics for these courses. I'm even looking for someone with a background, a good, strong background in intuition coursework that can take the course I already have and look at turning it into more of a weekly Zoom format. Right now it's scheduled as a full day course, but there are problems with it. So it needs to be updated. And that I have tons of ideas for all of this stuff, but there's only one of me. And only being one of me, and I'm not diminishing you, Shelley, you're a big help to me. Um, but there's a lot that can happen faster by building community sooner. So I'm certainly looking for those inputs as well.
Yeah. So that that feels like an invitation again into the chat box is what are the 19 of you who are online with us right now, what would you want in a community? What are you looking for? Where are the holes for you in your practice that you can imagine community helping to fill up a little bit? And if you can't think of anything off the top of your head, feel free to send Janet an email after this call.
Yeah, and I'll just remind you, it's Jana, Janna, at energymedicinespecialists.com. It's also the website that lists coursework. It's how you get into the online school. There's lots of information on the website as well if you haven't seen it.
So I just put Jana's email and her website, if you can copy that off from the chat. And do want to point out that if you go to energymedicinespecialist.com, the second menu item in is called classes. And at the bottom of that is called, you'll see SEM certification. So you can get to that page to see more about the classes that Jana has available kind of in the skew or the spectrum of classes that she is going to make available as time and COVID allows.
Also, there is a brochure like this, which I think is linked off the website. I mean, it's going to be hard to read because it's backwards on here, but this is a trifold that does list the courses in the program. So it doesn't give as much information about credentialing because it's still being created. But there's a lot of information in this, which I can send out to you as well, if you're interested.
And another question I have for people is just whether you have experienced any online networks or groups that bring healing practitioners together of any kind, or whether there's a specific platform. I'm digging into something called Mighty Networks right now, and just wondering if anybody is already plugged into something like that that you are part of and recommend. I know that there's a lot out there, and there's also so many hours in a day, and not everybody is, real excited about online stuff.
So Gail, if you could email me at my email address and ask me for the brochure, I'll send you back an electronic copy. Or you can email me and send me your physical address and I can send you several if you want them.
So what else do you want to be sure that people know about you, Jana, in terms of just why this is important to you?
Well, you asked me the other day to maybe talk about my dad as an influence. And when I was young, very young, my dad was a student and he was in school a lot. According to my mother, he was never home. According to my dad, that's not true. But my dad was back in school. My dad served in the Korean War as a young man, came home, married, started having kids, and went to school, community colleges, to get his degree in engineering. And working full-time and going at night to school, as anybody knows that's done it, is not the fast track. It's a long, slow process, and he spent many years doing that. And just in his final year of training, the school that he was going to lost its credentialing and folded. And my dad lost all of his coursework. And it was very frustrating for him. He did end up working his whole life in engineering without the level of income that came with a credential. So credentialing was very important to him. Schooling was very important to both of my parents. And I think there are benefits and drawbacks to standardized anything. And sometimes that standardization is ours is the only one that's any good, and here's why. And I think that's not helpful. I think what's helpful are standards, not necessarily laws and structures that are designed to eliminate others' opportunities. So the best things about standards and credentials is they are pats on the back. They're a way of evaluating the training that you've gotten that says, yes, we think that's appropriate, or the skill level that you've achieved, and someone to say, yes, and we're checking up on that. We're going to put our stamp of approval on that. We're going to make sure that you live up to that. So I think with all life, we have to balance. And I think with all life, one of the things that we're getting another introduction to right now is how important it is for you to think for yourself, for you to have some level of understanding, whether it's education or experience, or whether it's communication where you're out questioning people. I think it's important for you to get to the bottom of things, to find out for yourself, and to believe in what you believe in for really good reasons. And standards can be something that we can believe in, but we also have to keep evaluating them. And so that's the thing where, you get a degree, and that's the last anybody ever heard of it. In healthcare, there is a method or a process of checking up on people to make sure that they're staying current in their field. It's true in some other fields as well. But that's a way of saying, I'm staying educated. I'm not just resting on my laurels. I don't have this credential behind me that, that's my flag, and I don't have to do anything because I've already earned it. In most fields where there are credentials, that credential is renewed. It's evaluated. And that's a way of saying we have a commitment to ongoing education in your field, whatever it is. So those are good things. Forum.
Jana, do you want to read that, since people watching the recording won't know what you're looking at?
Oh, okay. Denise says, what may help further community? A forum to be able to exchange ideas and experiences with energy medicine. 1 to 2 day workshops available online are valuable, and addresses not being in person, and increases accessibility and affordability. And that would be great for community, absolutely. To stay in touch with people, to find out who else is in my community and what are their expertise areas. And it also sets up the availability of networking with others in your field, which it's a very important way to stay educated, to stay up in your field, is to know what other people are doing. I love teaching. It is a passion of mine to teach. And it's not because at all that I think I have all the answers. It is because when you're in sacred circle with other people and you're sharing ideas, everybody there learns something. And so that's a way for me to strive to be better at what I know, what I do. I also offer monthly mentor phone calls to students. Anybody who's a student can join those mentor calls. They'll start up again in July, and we'll probably announce them again in June. They meet once a month, and there are places to discuss what's happening with my clients, what's happening in the field of energy medicine, what are my challenges in my personal growth work this month, what's going on in the world, what does that mean energetically. We talk about everything, and they're really valuable places to network with like-minded students, practitioners.
So the question, I guess, is one, I noticed that Patty mentioned that therapeutic touch meets on Zoom regularly, and Denise is talking about a forum. And so like the question is whether it's helpful to have the Zoom calls like we've been doing the past few months, where people can just come in and listen and you can talk on a topic and people can ask questions, or to do a Zoom meeting where people see faces and maybe there's breakout rooms, or to have some kind of a forum, whether it's a Facebook group or some other platform where people can come and go any time of day and post something, and they're starting or adding to a conversation that continues rather than just a one-time Zoom call that you either do or don't attend, or a phone call that you do or don't attend.
Yeah.
Whether that would have some value
Yeah, and we were just talking
community.
about that, and I would be happy to have an online forum for discussing things. And I think as more students come into the program, the energy therapy program, I think there'll be more people contributing to that as well, and looking to that for places to discuss or gathering more information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, it does involve having to mediate or moderate, but that's fine. And if anyone else in this group wants to do that with me, that makes it even easier to have a couple of people keeping an eye on it that can say, hey, we got this really good question about, or there's this discussion that I think you might want to weigh in on.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's an excellent opportunity to create community.
And so I'm always in my brain thinking of what are the technical specs that we need to define about what people are interested in doing, or where would we do something like that. And
Thank
I'm
God
just
to have you, Shelley, doing that, because that never enters my brain.
I'm the how-to girl. So what I'm curious about, to you listeners, is whether you're a fan of Facebook and Facebook groups, or if you would be open to doing something on another platform. Just curious if you already are aware of something like that, or and again, if you don't want to answer online, or think about that, I'm sure we'll be posting some other question out there. You can. Somebody said, Patty says, not a Facebook fan, and I think a lot of people are leaning that way these days too. It's just a matter of where are people already having conversations that feels natural to go to, or do you think of going somewhere else?
Well, and even the Mighty Network that you were talking about, even a different type of platform that people could be invited to. You don't have to learn it yourself. You just show up. It's similar in that it's a platform, but it's different in that it's not getting exposed. Maybe it's invitation only, from my database. So that somebody has an interest to be even invited in there.
Right.
But yeah, Facebook is a little it's a little exhausting these days.
And we want to have the energy feel good to talk about the energy.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
could the current EMS website be utilized as a forum spot? It's on Facebook. So that
She's
is,
saying like go to energy medicine specialists as a doorway to get to the online forum. We could
okay. So, but it would have to be invitation only and not public, or you'd get people coming in through Facebook or through other social media. So yeah, there is a way. I don't know whether it'd be having under Mighty Network, having an EMS page or forum or whatever it is, but we can look into that. We can definitely look into that because we were talking about it anyway.
yeah.
Everybody's a little ugged out by Facebook these days.
Well, everything's needing reinvented right now. And I think ways of creating community, I mean, I think that's been, silver linings has been a word that maybe should be considered one of the words of the year. But a silver lining of COVID has been we are exploring other ways of being online and feeling comfortable doing that. And that it feels really good to be connected to people when you can't do it in person.
Yeah.
And eventually, maybe we can figure out more about how energy works online for distance sessions or
Yeah.
practice
And
sessions or whatever.
Gabby, where is it? It disappeared. I thought it was Gabby had a question about doing exchanges on.
Oh, she was saying that it could be
I don't see
wonderful
it.
to do, to have a network of students to be able to do distant healing exchanges and to practice with each other. So yeah, just having a way of knowing who's who and
Yep.
faces and names put together.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do that as a mini course, even to ask people to sign up, to pair you up based on your, maybe you do a little, this is coming through right now. Maybe you do a little introduction to yourself, what you'd like to receive, what your background in training is, and we put it out to the group, and then pair up, take a break, you go do a distance session or receive a distance session, come back to the mini course and debrief what happened energetically. You know, how did you do an assessment? Did you look at this part of the assessment? And you might not know all this stuff yet, but it's a great way to start learning of this is a pattern that's typically in the energy field, and here's where you might find it. So that's the kind of stuff that's really exciting for me, is to actually apply to the energy session what's going on, how to assess what's going on energetically. I'd have just so much fun doing something like that. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in something like that, just let us know. If we have enough people interested in something like that, we might try a small one and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that I love that. Well, I see that we are really close to the top of the hour, and in case other people have their next Zoom meeting to go to, we should wrap it up. I thank you so much, everybody, for participating to the
Thank you
chat.
for joining the call and contributing. So nice to hear from people that are there.
Yeah. So maybe in the next month or so, we will schedule something that will be a Zoom meeting so we can see each other's faces and do breakout rooms and continue this conversation.
That'd be excellent. I'm learning with you. So yeah, okay, Shelley, that sounds
Okay,
good.
Jonah. Thanks to everybody who's on the call and who's watching the recording later. We will be posting this on Jana's blog, and we'll just keep talking.
All right, and that, are you going to get the chat? Can you copy that? Because
We are
people are
saving the
saying
chat,
they're
and
interested.
yeah, so we will make those connections.
All right, hang in there, everybody. We have an inauguration this month. We have lots of changes still coming. Keep your center, and thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.